Hi and welcome to The Winning Factor. I'm Alan Aitken, and on this show each week we preview some upcoming races in Hong Kong and we look for a vital ingredient that might decide the issue. Well, Sunday racing at Sha Tin this week, and I'm going to have a look at a couple of races from that card, but first of all I'm going to take a little detour. On Wednesday night we saw a great clash between Joe Moreira and Zac Purton in the final race. Certainly worth watching if you want to take a look back at that. And their clash throughout the season has been really one of the highlights, and I think it's going to continue to be that way right down to the line in this Jockeys Championship. And I know many people around the world who are just getting introduced to Hong Kong racing tend to support one jockey or the other, or you know, maybe a combination at times, but they are the focal point of many people when they watch Hong Kong racing. And I do get asked by friends from overseas, which of the two jockeys should I follow? If I want to have a bet without doing much form, which jockey should I follow? So I've taken a little bit of time to study that and had a look back at this season in particular, at who is turning up and doing the job and who's maybe falling a bit short of expectations. So if we take a look at this graphic, what we see here is a breakdown for each 50 race block of this current season and how each of these two great riders measures up to expectations as determined by the betting market. Now the blue line is the wins expected by the betting market for the jockey over that period, while the orange line is how many winners they actually rode in each of those blocks. And what stands out is that Purton was a big underperformer at the start of the season, but since about race 200, so it's nearly 400 races now, he's been getting close to expectations as a regular thing. Magic Moreira, he had his big spike early on, but recently he's probably fallen a little short of the market expectations. So what that is saying is that right now, Zac Purton probably is the one of the two to be following in terms of meeting expectations. And certainly we're hoping that's going to be the case in the first of the races we're going to look at for Sunday, and that's race 2, where our winning factor is the jockey. So we look down the field here. It's a fairly standard class 4 staying race, number of chances, including Go Ballistic, the former South African who's been showing some improvement lately. Rule V has a chance, getting back up to a suitable distance. Full Power is a last start winner. Cheerful Star, he'll do better from a better draw, I think, this time. And I thought we could expect some improvement from California Legend, getting back onto the turf course here. But the style of the race is going to be critical, and first of all we're going to have a look at the map as a result. Now it's a race that does not look that quickly run. California Legend and Giant Turtle, they're regular leaders, but there's no external pressure on them, no need for them to take each other on, and with the result that perhaps they can just go along at a fairly even speed. Cheerful Star, he gets a nice run behind them, and so too Full Power for Zac Purton, who looks like finding a lovely spot trailing the leaders, as does the former South African Go Ballistic. And very helpfully, those two horses I've just mentioned met in a race recently, race 510. We're going to take a look at that. Now they have fairly similar colours here, red, yellow and blue, and Full Power is 5th in running, 2 wide, and just behind him is Go Ballistic. And you'll see when they turn for home, Full Power gets a nice run through. Go Ballistic has to go a little bit wider to get around another runner, and they settle down for the run down the home straight. But once they get into full gallop, Full Power draws right away and gets up to win, while Go Ballistic is amongst the run-on horses. So I think he has Go Ballistic covered on that, and his main danger could be Cheerful Star. We're going to take a look at his most recent start. Now he drew wide here over 2,000 metres, a very difficult start when you draw out, and you'll see he's in the light blue colours, white sleeves, and he's forced to go all the way back to last here in running after basically most of the field punched up under him rounding the home turn. So he gives away a very big start here, and we'll see on the home turn he gets pushed very wide again. He's off the track in those blue and white colours, and he makes up quite a bit of ground over the final 300 metres, but he's run out of puff when they get to the line. He really had to do too much and he'd come to the end of his run. but I think he'll get a much better run this time. But despite that, the tip in race 2 is Full Power. His winning factor, the jockey. I do think Cheerful Star is a major danger from the better draw, but as we see so often, Zac Purton gets the job done. I think the market will find a number of leading chances here, and Zac is on one of the primary fancies, and he's going to be very tough to beat. The other race we're going to examine is race 10, the winning factor, the weights. As I said earlier, we saw a great clash between Joao Moreira and Zac Purton on Wednesday night in the final race, and I think we're going to see a great clash between them here as well, because they stand out on the major chances. Purton on Mighty Giant and Moreira with Juno Park, both horses looking for their third successive win over the Sha Tin 1400 metres. Now, Juno Park has won again since the race that we're going to look at, but I thought we'd take a look at their wins, both of them, since they both happened on March 14, and that gave us a chance to compare their performances without any change in the conditions of the day. So first of all, race 494, and this is Juno Park breaking his maiden. This is in Class 4, and he gets a nice trip behind the leaders, and over the final stages just gets the better of the subsequent winner, Ka Ying Excellent, and that was the first win for Juno Park. 6 races later, we saw Mighty Giant lining up for the first time in Class 3, and he went out at very short odds here in race 500 and lived up to all those expectations with a comfortable margin after getting quite an easy time of things up on the front end of the race. But now I want to have a look at a graphic of their individual times in those 2 races, because to the eye you'd have to say that Mighty Giant was by far the impressive winner of the 2, but they were in very different circumstances. You can see here, and Juno Park, for one thing, carried 130 pounds as against 123 for Mighty Giant, and there was quite a bit of pressure on Juno Park's race at the front end during the middle stages of the race. So with that big weight, he was forced to work fairly hard to stay in touch with the leaders mid-race. Meanwhile, Mighty Giant did almost no work up on the speed with only his 123 pounds, so he was able to post a much sharper final section and also run a little bit faster overall. So the different workload really had a lot to do with how impressive one was to the eye and the other not so much. Now, when we look at the map for Sunday's race, I don't think this will be as fast run as that race we saw with Juno Park, but I don't think it'll be as slowly run as the race that we saw with Mighty Giant. So somewhere in between, and we've seen that Juno Park has the speed through the middle of his race to stay in touch with Mighty Giant here, and I think that sets us up for quite a run down the straight, and that could be where the weights make a difference. So the tip in race 10, Juno Park, his winning factor, the weights. Really don't think there's a great deal between these 2 horses. They're both quite handy horses in the making, but I do think that the weight pull for Juno Park is going to count for something when the pair settle down to fight it out over the last 300 metres of their race on Sunday. Well, that's it for the winning factor this week. Good luck on Sunday. We'll see you next time.